When Lin Zi'ang came out of the underground station, it was already 7:30 p.m. It was already dark, and the street lights on the street were dim, making people's faces blurry. He looked down at his phone, and a bunch of unread messages popped up on the screen, all of which were urging overtime from the company group to work. He sighed, locked the screen, and had only one thought in his brain: when will this day be ahead? He is just over 27 years old this year, graduated from an ordinary university, and worked as a literary career in a small company. He is as busy as a dog every day, and his salary and rent are almost impossible to save. In the past few months, I was in trouble. The real estate price and credit card payment days are approaching, and the money in my pockets adds up less than $1,000. Walking back to the rental house, he passed by a familiar and unfamiliar alley, Antique Street. This street is in an old city area. There are not many people usually, but every weekend it is as popular as a market, full of all kinds of small businesses, selling everything, from old books to broken copper wires, and many people come here to buy some weird things. Lin Zi'ang came with you several times when he was a child. I remember that general manager you was holding the enlarged lens and watching a small object for a long time, muttering words like authentic and good products in his mouth. He didn't understand that, he just thought that there was something good about these shabby things. Now thinking about it, he was quite thinking about that slow time. Today is not a weekend, the streets are so deserted, only a few lanterns are still on. Lin Zi'ang originally wanted to walk directly, but after walking for a while, he turned in by a stranger. Maybe it was because the pressure was too high recently, so he wanted to find something to distract himself, even if he was just a casual walk. The air in the alley carries a scent of old, mixed with wood, old paper and smoke from some unknown place to eat. He walked around without destination, his eyes swept across the stairs. Some people use their phones with their heads down, while others lean on the chair and nap, and no one greets them at all. After walking for a few steps, he stopped in front of a small trunk, and the pile of scattered things were filled with old porcelain bowls, copper money, broken jade pendants, and a bunch of gadgets that were invisible. The owner of the thigh is a thin old man wearing a gray cotton mat with a deep pattern on his face as if it was carved by a knife. When he saw Lin Zi'ang stop, he looked up at him and asked with a sound of a sandy voice, "Little brother, what do you like? You can choose whatever you want, and the price is easy." Lin Zi'ang slapped his head and smiled a little awkwardly. "Just take a look, there is nothing you want to buy." That's right, he still squatted down and flipped over the things on the sack. Most of the objects were gray and didn't look special, but for some reason, he always felt that they were indescribable, as if they were hiding some secrets waiting for people to discover them. As he flipped through, his hand stopped on a small copper tripod. The thing was about the size of a palm, with green surfaces, and 3 short legs supported a bulging belly, which looked like something like a fragrant pot. Lin Zi'ang picked it up and weighed it. It was quite heavy and it was a bit cool when buying it. He didn't know why, but stared at this thing for a few seconds, and suddenly felt inexplicably this thing was not simple. "Boss, what is this? How much does it cost?" he raised his head and asked. The old man glanced at the copper tripod in his hand and smiled. "This is an old object. I don't know what it is. I guess it is a small antique piece. If you like it, take it away with 50 pieces. 50 blocks? Lin Zi'ang's heart skipped a beat, feeling a little expensive, but he was reluctant to let go. He hesitated, took out his money bag from his pocket, gritted his teeth and still paid. When he held the small copper tripod, he felt a little excited. Although he didn't know if this thing was worth it, he always felt that he was cheap. Back at the rental house, he threw the copper tripod on the table, washed his clothes and slept on the bed and brushed his cell phone, and the gadget was still there in his brain. He simply got up, took the copper tripod and looked at it for a few more times, and searched similar pictures on his mobile phone. Unexpectedly, this search really allowed him to find a doorway. It was said online that this type of copper tripod may be a sacrificial utensil from the Shang and Zhou dynasties. Although most of them were imitations, if they were genuine, the price would be as high as the price. Lin Zi'ang's heartbeat was a little faster. Although he felt that his energy would not be so good, he still couldn't help but think about it a little more. He turned around and couldn't sleep. The next morning, he simply asked for a long time off and returned to Antique Street with his copper tripod. He wanted to find someone who knows what this thing was. There were more people on the street this time than last night, and many owners were shouting, and there were also a few middle-aged people wearing enlarged lenses and pointing at the objects on the neck. Lin Zi'ang held the copper tripod, looked left and right, and finally found a relatively remarkable sack on the corner of the street. The owner of the sliver is a middle-aged man wearing glasses. He has several old books and some porcelains in front of him, and his temperament is a bit like a master's degree. "Hello, I want to ask you to take a look at this." The middle-aged man took the copper tripod, squinted his eyes and looked at it for a few seconds, took out a small handphone to take a photo, and said a few words in his mouth. "Little brother, this thing is a bit interesting. On the surface, it looks quite old and looks like a green copperware from the Shang and Zhou dynasties. But I have to remind you that the antique technology is too high now, and it is probably fake. If you want to make sure, it is best to find a professional institution to make a decision." Lin Zi'ang was stunned for a moment, and his heart was both excited and nervous. He thanked the middle-aged man, held the copper tripod and turned a few more kids, asked a few people who knew the knowledge, and got the same answers. "This thing may be real goods, but it may also be high imitation, and the specific ones are certain." Just as he was about to leave, a low voice came from the side. "Little brother, are you not simple in this matter? Will you sell it?" Lin Zi'ang turned around and saw that he was talking about a middle-aged man wearing black collars, smiling on his face, but his eyes made people feel a little uncomfortable. He was also following two young men, who looked like a younger brother, stood straight and had a bit of awesomeness. "Not selling." Lin Zi'ang subconsciously hugged the copper tripod and slammed the head. The man was not worried and smiled. "Don't rush to refuse. I'm going to pay a price of 100,000 yuan, how about it?" 100,000? Lin Zi'ang was shocked, but he just told him that this person was not a good road. He said with a stern face, "I really don't sell it. I keep it for myself." After saying that, he turned around and walked away. His pace accelerated, and he didn't look back. He didn't notice that the black cloak man behind stared at his back, slowly retracted his smile on his face, and said to the person beside him, "Follow him and see what this kid is coming." Lin Zi'ang trotted all the way and dared to look back when he left the antique street. He felt relieved when he saw no one followed him. He was a little scared, but he was more excited. 100,000 yuan. If this thing was real, wouldn't it be worth more? He decided to find a proper place to decide, so he contacted a famous antique auction house in the city and set aside time. A few days later, the result came out. When Lin Zi'ang sat in the small meeting room of the auction house, he heard that the copper tripod was a genuine product from the Shang and Zhou dynasties. When the preliminary estimate was between 2 million and 3 million, he was completely confused. Experts also said that this type of copperware is rarely circulated among the public. It is recommended that he participate directly in the auction next month, and the price may be higher. Lin Zi'ang walked out of the auction with the pre-order report, and his brain seemed to be filled with flowers. He never thought that the broken money he bought for $50 was worth millions. This is simply a slim bun in the sky. He called Wang Xiaopeng in the first time and talked about this matter in no time. After Wang Xiaopeng finished listening, the phone exploded. "I'll go, Zi'ang, you're making money. There are millions of dollars, you can eat and drink. But you have to be careful, the antiques are so deep, don't be cheated." Lin Zi'ang smiled and said, "Don't worry, I'm looking for a regular auction house, so there should be no problem. When the auction is finished, I'll ask you to have a big meal." After quitting the phone, he still couldn't calm down. On the way home, his brain was full of future plans to set up his credit card, switch to a good house, and even work to do what he likes. But he didn't expect that this was just the beginning, and even greater trouble was approaching quietly. The days of the auction are getting closer and closer. Lin Zi'ang locked the copper tripod in the insurance box at home, and was careful every day, for fear of any accident. He began to go to the antique street frequently, wanting to learn more, but this time he lost something. He felt sweet. He had an idea in his mind. Maybe he really has this talent? This day, he met another familiar face in Antique Street, the old man who sold his copper tripod last time. The old man saw him and smiled meaningfully. "Little brother, are you satisfied with that last time?" Lin Zi'ang was stunned for a moment and pointed. "It's great, thank you, boss." He didn't say much, but he still understood the truth that his wealth was not exposed. The old man didn't ask, but took out a small notebook from under the sect and sent it to him. "If you are interested in this, take it and take a look. It's all basic things and will be useful to novices." Lin Zi'ang took the book and looked through several pages, and found that there were many tips on antique demarcation, as well as some potential rules on antique streets. He felt warm in his heart and felt that the old man was quite good, so he thanked him and prepared to go back and study it carefully. At this moment, his mobile phone was hit. It was a strange number. He picked up and sent a female voice to the other side, and his verb was a little anxious. "Are you Mr. Lin Zi'ang? I'm Su Xiaoman. I heard that you have a copper gadget in your hand, and I want to talk about cooperation with you." Lin Zi'ang was stunned and wondered why this news was so fast. He hesitated for a moment, and still agreed to meet him. After hanging up the phone, Lin Zi'ang felt a little uneasy, but more curious. He concedes that he has been rolled into a larger circle, and all of this just began. He packed up his things and walked towards the tea house. People came and went on the street. Sun Guang was on the old Bluestone Road. There were owners shouting far away, and there were also tourists taking photos with their mobile phones. Everything looked so ordinary. But Lin Zi'ang knew in his heart that since he picked up the copper tripod, his life could no longer be returned to the past. The tea shop was too far away, and you could arrive after turning 2 alleys. Lin Zi'ang pushed the door in, and the fragrance of tea coming towards him made him feel a little relaxed. He glanced at the hall and soon noticed a young woman in a white shirt, waving to him. She is pretty, clean and neat, like a professional elite. "Mr. Lin, I'm Su Xiaoman." She stood up, stretched out her hand, and smiled. Lin Zi'ang shook hands, sat down and asked a little restrainedly, "How do you know me? Also, what's the matter with me?" Su Xiaoman smiled and took out a business card from his bag and passed it. "I am from the Su Antiques business and I have been doing antique business for generations. I recently heard that you have a Shangzhou green copperware in your hand, and the estimated price is not low, so I want to talk to you to see if there is any possibility of cooperation." Lin Zi'ang received the business card and felt a little swaying in his heart. He has heard of Su's Antiques, which is a famous old-fashioned name on Antique Street, and the background is quite deep. He never expected that the things he had leaked with his hands could attract the attention of such a big shot. "What does cooperation mean?" he asked. Su Xiaoman took a sip of tea and looked serious. "Simply speaking, I hope you can hand over this copperware to our auction operation, which will make a profit of 50%. Of course, we can also provide professional protection and publicity to ensure that the auction is smooth. In addition, I heard that you have a good vision of the sniff. If there are similar opportunities in the future, we can cooperate for a long time." Lin Zi'ang heard it with great emotion, but he didn't answer immediately. He knew that he had to be cautious in this matter, and after all, he had a little understanding of the antique circle. So he pointed and said, "I'll consider it, and I'll give you a reply in a few days." Su Xiaoman didn't plead, and smiled. "No problem, this is my way of contact, come to me any time." When leaving the tea house, Lin Zi'ang's heart was still a mess. He felt that Su Xiaoman's proposal was good, but there was always some uneasiness. Just as he was thinking down, he didn't notice a figure on the corner of the street and followed quietly. The man was wearing a black clip, the man who wanted to buy a copper tripod before. Lin Zi'ang walked into the small area where he lived, went up the building, took out the key and opened the door. As soon as the door opened, he was stunned. The lights in the room were lit, but he clearly remembered that he was shutting down when he left. His heartbeat suddenly accelerated, and his hands holding the key were shaking. He took a deep breath, pushed the door carefully, and looked inside. There was no one in the room, but the things on the table were clearly passed, and the locks in the insurance box also had pried marks. Lin Zi buzzed his head and rushed over and opened the insurance box. He found that the copper tripod was still there, so he relaxed his voice. But he knew that this matter was absolutely not simple, and someone was eyeing him. He closed the door and sat on the bed, sweating profusely. The black clock man's face flashed in his brain, and Su Xiaoman's proposal. He suddenly realized that the treasure he had accidentally won might not only be the beginning of wealth, but also the beginning of trouble. The night was shining outside the window, and the lights on the antique street were lit far away, as if they were summoning something. Lin Zi'ang held the phone tightly and decided to call Wang Xiaopeng, asking if he had any people he knew could help him see what happened. What he didn't know was that a bigger storm was approaching quietly. Lin Zi'ang sat on the bed, his mobile phone screen lit up, and Wang Xiaopeng's name was still at the top of the call record. He hesitated for a moment, but he still snatched over. The phone rang a few times, and the head of the man who sent Wang Xiaopeng a silence. "What's wrong, Zi'ang? What's going on in the middle of the night? Have you lost money again?" Lin Zi'ang smiled bitterly and said in a low voice, "It's a big deal. My family was just overturned, and the insurance box was almost pried open. Fortunately, the copper tripod is still there, but I always feel that it's not right. What do you know about people who rely on me? Can you help me see this?" When Wang Xiaopeng heard this, his lingering horse was about to get up and said, "I'm going, is it true? Didn't you call the police? This is not a small matter. Antiques are so deep. Maybe who is eyeing you? I know a few guys who are familiar with antiques. I will take you to ask tomorrow and I will help you to listen. Is there any bad voices recently?" Lin Zi'ang was a little bit. Although the other party couldn't see it, he still felt it in his heart. "Okay, thank you, fat man. Let's see you tomorrow. I'll send it to you on WeChat." After hanging up the phone, he checked the door and window again, and confirmed that it was all locked before lying back on the bed, but his brain was still in a mess and he turned around and couldn't sleep. He remembered the black clock man, Su Xiaoman's proposal, and even the meaningful smile when he first bought a copper tripod on Antique Street. These people, these things, wrapped them in like a net. The next morning, Lin Zi'ang came out of the door with dark circles on his eyes, and was carrying an inconspicuous cloth bag in his hand, and there was the copper tripod inside. He didn't dare to leave it at home anymore, and he always felt unsafe, so he just took it on him. The Earth and Iron Man held him tightly, and his eyes were unconsciously swept around him, fearing that who would look at him more. When he arrived at Antique Street, he saw Wang Xiaopeng standing at the intersection, wearing a fancy t-shirt with a lollipop in his mouth, slamming his hands. "Fatty, is that early?" Lin Zi'ang walked over, a little surprised. Wang Xiaopeng smiled and spit out a lollipop. "Well, you said your home was overturned, how can I not be in a hurry? Let's go, I'll take you to see someone. He has been in this street for more than 10 years and knows everything. He may be able to help you with some clues." The two walked through several alleys and came to a humble little boy. An old wooden sign was hanging on the door of the Gizi, and the Chenxiaizai ship was written on the top. The light inside was dim and filled with various old things, which looked like an ordinary slaughter. After entering the door, an old man in gray tang suit was wiping a porcelain bottle down and hearing the silence. He looked up at them, and his eyes made people uncomfortable. "Old Chen, this is what I'm a little Lin Zi'ang. I've been having trouble recently. I want to ask you to take a look." Wang Xiaopeng introduced it in a familiar way, took out a bag of smoke from his pocket and passed by. Old Chen received the smoke, but he was just stuck between his fingers, looked Lin Zi'ang up and down for a few eyes, and asked in a low voice, "What a nuisance, let's hear it." Lin Zi'ang hesitated for a moment, and then briefly explained the recent incident. From the leaked copper tripod to the house, it was turned over, even Su Xiaoman's cooperation proposal. He said it was careful, afraid that something was missing. Old Chen heard that there was no expression on his face, but he just clicked the head occasionally. After he finished speaking, he slowly opened his mouth. "Little brother, you are stepping into the deep water area of Antique Street. The copper tripod is not because you are good at running high, but because you are so lucky, so beautiful that people are looking at it. Lin Zi'ang was stunned and asked, "What does it mean? Someone has red eyes and I miss it?" Old Chen sneered, put down the porcelain bottle, and stood up. "The antique street looks calm, but there are actually everyone. The price of this copper tripod is estimated to be several million, and the news has been released. Some people, smiling on the surface, can be fucked out in everything behind their backs. If your home is overturned, it is probably because someone wants to start first. Fortunately, you are well off and have nothing to lose. But let me tell you, this thing will still be a bit off sooner, otherwise there will be more and more troubles." Lin Zi'ang felt embarrassed when he heard this, but he was unwilling to accept it. "But I came here, why did I let me give up? Besides, I have already made an appointment with the auction and will be filmed next month." The old mansion snatched his head, with a meaningful look in his eyes. "Auction is a good thing, but you have to live until then first. Listen to me, find someone who is trusted to help you see something, and don't betray one person. In addition, it's not a bad thing for the Su family to cooperate with you. Su's antique shop has a foundation in this line. If you connect with them, it will only be good for you." Lin Zi'ang was a little bit of his head and had a little deeper heart. He thanked Mr. Chen. When he left, Mr. Chen called him again, took out a yellow book from the drawer, and passed it over. "Take it and take a look. There are some basic doors of treasures and the potential rules of antique streets. It will be useful to you, such as novice. Remember, don't believe in sweet-mouthed people, believe in their own eyes." Lin Zi'ang received the registration and felt warm in his heart. Although this old man looked cold, he was quite realistic. He had a fucking son with Wang Xiaopeng. The fat man patted his shoulder and said with a smile, "Old Chen is a knife-like man, he is so sarcastic. You know what he is doing. What should I do next? Let's talk about Su Xiaoman." Lin Zi'ang thought for a while and pointed, "Well, I'll call her and have about time to chat. I always think that one person can't do it alone, so I have to find a backer." That afternoon, he heard Su Xiaoman's phone call, and the other party's vocals were still so straightforward. "Mr. Lin, have you considered it?" Lin Zi'ang said, "It's basically settled, but I want to talk about some details. Do you have time tomorrow? I'll see it in the old place." Su Xiaoman agreed happily and agreed to meet at the tea house at noon the next day. After hanging up the phone, Lin Zi'ang made a little bit of it, but he was still worried. He always thought that things wouldn't be so simple. The next day, he arrived at the tea house early, and Su Xiaoman was already waiting. Lin Zi'ang sat down and went straight to the topic. "There are not many conditions. First, I agree to hand over the auction of the copper tripod to you, but I have to participate in the whole process to ensure that no one is touching. Second, I don't understand the profits, but I have to sign a contract first and write it in black and white. Third, if there is still a chance to miss it in the future, I want to learn some real skills from you, but I am still not familiar with this industry." After listening to Su Xiaoman, he smacked his head and saw a flash of appreciation in his eyes. "Okay, I can answer all these conditions. I will prepare people for the contract and sign it tomorrow. As for learning skills, there is no problem. I can teach you some basic decisive skills and even take you to the market to fight. However, I also have a condition: you have to guarantee that you will not cooperate with other auction houses or individuals in the short term. After all, our Su family doesn't want to be in vain." Lin Zi'ang felt that the conditions were reasonable and agreed on the spot. The two talked about some details, and Su Xiaoman also proposed that it is best to deposit it in Su's warehouse before the copper tripod is auctioned. After all, they have professional security, which is much safer than his small security box. Lin Zi'ang hesitated for a moment, but still agreed. After all, the incident of being overturned at home recently made him feel thrilled. When leaving the tea house, Su Xiaoman gave him a card with the address of the Su family's insurance warehouse, and he would make an appointment to send the copper cauldron tomorrow afternoon. Lin Zi'ang held the card and felt a little confused. He knew that working with the Su family was a shortcut, but it also meant that he had finally stepped into the big pit of the antique circle. Who would say it was not accurate? Sure enough, the trouble came sooner than he thought. That night, on his way home, he always felt someone following him. He accelerated his pace, turned into a small alley, pretended to look at his phone with his head low, and actually swept the back with the light at the corner of his eyes. Sure enough, there was a figure in black at the entrance of the alley, stopping there sneakily, as if afraid of being discovered. Lin Zi'ang's heart beat faster and his brain flew quickly. He suddenly remembered that Wang Xiaopeng had mentioned before that there were several gangsters near the antique street, who were helping people follow him, and he might be the one who was here. He didn't dare to turn around, so he walked forward as if nothing had happened. He rolled a few times and finally threw away the figure. But he knew that this matter was not over, and most of the other party was coming to the copper tripod. When he got home, he sent Wang Xiaopeng a WeChat message in the first time and told him what had just happened. The fat man replied quickly, "Yucao, Zi'ang, you have to be careful. 80 mostly Zhang Tianhao's people. This guy is a black market boss in the antique street. He is ruthless, and he specializes in robbing things that others have leaked. I heard that he was looking for a blue copper device recently, which is probably the one in your hand. You'd better not leave the door, and don't leave the things at home, and be tightly engaged with the Su family. They can at least protect you." Lin Zi'ang looked at the phone screen and his heart sank. He has heard the name Zhang Tianhao several times, and it is all bad news. He said that this person's background is not clean, so he helped him and was dedicated to some invisible signs. Lin Zi'ang didn't expect that he would just get involved in such a person after he got a mist. He gritted his teeth and decided to hear the fat man that he would send the copper cauldron to the Su family's insurance warehouse tomorrow morning, and at the same time, he knocked the cooperation with Su Xiaoman to death. That night, he almost didn't sleep. His brain was covered with all kinds of miscellaneous thoughts, and even had a dreaming that he was blocked in the alley and the copper tripod was slammed. When he woke up, he was sweating in a cold sweat. The next morning, he walked out of the door with his cloth bag in his arms and headed straight to the Su family's security warehouse. The place was in an inconspicuous building in the city center. It looked like an ordinary warehouse on the surface, but after entering, I found out that the security inside was very scary. There were monitoring and uniformed security guards coming back to patrol the rules. Su Xiaoman was already waiting for him. When he saw him, he smiled and said, "Don't worry, even the flocks here can't fly in. Your things are absolutely safe." Lin Zi'ang pointed his head and handed the copper tripod to her. He watched her put into a cabinet with a fingertip, and then he relaxed his breath. Su Xiaoman also gave him a contract, and the two signed it on the spot, so the cooperation was decided. In the next few days, Lin Zi'ang and Su Xiaoman learned a lot. She took him to the antique market several times, and taught him how to see the glaze color of porcelain, how to distinguish the authenticity of jade, and even talked about some market rules, such as which owners love to cheat people and which auction stores have a lot of moisture. Lin Zi'ang learned very quickly, but he had a straightforward view of antiques, and he could learn things from Su Xiaoman as soon as he learned them. During this period, he didn't have time to go to the antique street with Wang Xiaopeng, trying to get some small leaks. Although he didn't encounter the daily price of copper cauldrons again, he also found several gadgets worth thousands of dollars, and slowly got some experience. He found that he was becoming more and more interested in this industry, and even began to think that if he could continue to work, he might really be able to make a fortune. But it didn't take long for a good time, and the trouble came to the door again. That night, he and Su Xiaoman came out from a small auction. The two were discussing the next cooperation matter. The phone suddenly fell, and it was Wang Xiaopeng who called him. He was so anxious. "Zi'ang, please hide quickly. Zhang Tianhao's people came to you on the antique street and said they wanted a conversation with you. I heard that they already knew that you had cooperated with the Su family, so they probably wanted to take ruthless measures." Lin Zi'ang felt nervous, and Lima told Su Xiaoman about this. Su Xiaoman said in a deep voice, "I have heard of Zhang Tianhao. It's not easy to deal with. Since he dares to look for you openly, he will not be afraid of tearing his face. Don't go back to the rental house first and stay near my house for a few days. Our Su family is a little bit powerful in this area, and they dare not come." Lin Zi'ang had no choice but to click. He followed Su Xiaoman to a small restaurant near her house and immediately got down. But he knew in his heart that this was just a right plan. Since Zhang Tianhao was eyeing him, he would have made big moves. Sure enough, after 2 days, Su Xiaoman received the news that Zhang Tianhao was going to hold a private shooting on the antique street. On the surface, it was trading antiques, but in fact it was a bureau specializing in the copper tripod in Lin Zi'ang's hand. Su Xiaoman sneered and said to Lin Zi'ang, "This is a typical fake dealer. He wants to use gifts to change your real goods, and may even just snatch them. We have to think of a way to oppose him." Lin Zi'ang was shocked when he heard it, but he also knew that he could not hide. He gritted his teeth and asked, "How to fight back?" "I heard you." Su Xiaoman's eyes flashed with a shiny gaze and said in a low voice, simply, "We also participated in this private shooting, but we didn't bring real goods, but a high-quality imitation. I have a way to get a green copper tripod that is almost fake. Let's use this fish to see what Zhang Tianhao wants to fuck. If he really dares to do it, the Su family is not a vegetarian." After Lin Zi'ang finished listening, his heart was both nervous and excited. He knew that this situation was not simple, and it might be a tough battle. But he also understood that he had no way out. It would be better to take the initiative to attack than to be beaten. In the next few days, Su Xiaoman started the incident of Zhang Luogao imitating the blue copper tripod, and also contacted several old acquaintances of the Su family to prepare to take good care of the private filming. Lin Zi'ang and Wang Xiaopeng listened to Zhang Tianhao's details from all over the world and tried to master the other party's weaknesses. The air in the antique street is getting stronger and stronger, as if a storm is coming. What Lin Zi'ang didn't expect was that this private filming was not only Zhang Tianhao's game, but also brought out a bigger secret, the trace of missing treasures in the Ming dynasty. And this thread was hidden on an inconspicuous small trunk on Antique Street, waiting for him to discover it. Lin Zi'ang sat in the small room of the Bin Pavilion, with the windows pulling seriously, leaving only a piece of detailed rays passing through the dim road lights. He held the phone in his hand, and the news from Su Xiaoman was just posted on the screen. The high-quality imitation green copper tripod has been completed. I will see it for a private photo tomorrow night. Remember not to reveal my bag. After reading the news, his heart seemed to be filled with a piece of stone, heavy, but also indescribable excitement. This situation will be successful tomorrow. He threw his cell phone around and leaned against the bed, his brain full of recent events. From the beginning of the copper tripod, his life was like riding a mountain bike, rising and falling, so shocking that it made people breathless. Zhang Tianhao's name now makes his back feel swaying when he hears it. In the news about Antique Street, this guy is not a good guy. He said that there are many people under his command, and he is dedicated to some invisible things. Lin Zi'ang knew that if this private filming was not good, he might have to fall in. The door suddenly sounded 2 times when 2 sounds knocked on the door. Lin Zi'ang was shocked and Rima sat up from the bed, pressing down a low voice, "Who?" "It's me, fat man." Wang Xiaopeng's familiar voice came from outside the door, with a feeling of panting. Lin Zi'ang relaxed his voice and rushed over to open the door. Wang Xiaopeng was wearing an old wardrobe, a baseball cap on his head, and a plastic bag in his hand. After coming in, he sat directly on the chair and wiped his sweat. "I'll go, Zi'ang, you're hiding like an agent. I searched for a long time before I found this broken museum. I heard a little sound on the Antique Street, and Zhang Tianhao had already spoken. He said that the private photos tomorrow will not only come to you, but also have other pictures. No one knows what, but it doesn't sound simple." Lin Zi'ang took the bag that the fat man came with, which contained several buns and a bottle of mineral water. He bit the bun and asked, "Another picture? What does it mean? Isn't it just that I want to snatch my copper tripod?" Wang Xiaopeng snatched his head and said in a low voice, "It's not just a matter of the copper tripod. I heard the old heads on the street muttering, saying that Zhang Tianhao was looking for a picture of hidden treasures recently, saying that it was related to a group of missing treasures in the Ming dynasty, and it was worth the old nose. He might think you had a wire in your hand, or he thought you had hit something when you were leaking. In short, this guy is now heartbroken to mess with you. Lin Zi'ang heard it and felt a thrill in his heart. Hiding the picture? A treasure in the Ming dynasty? Why does this sound like a movie? But looking at Wang Xiaopeng's expression doesn't seem to be joking. He remembered that when he was redirecting on Antique Street recently, he had heard several similar stories, saying that there were many secrets hidden behind this street, and some old objects even involved grudges from hundreds of years ago. He only heard the story at that time, and did not expect that he would be involved with himself now. Fatty, are you talking about these things reliable? It's so mysterious to hear about them. Lin Zi'ang was still half believing. Wang Xiaopeng curled his lips, took out a small notebook from his pocket, opened a page and pointed it at him. Look at it yourself, this is what I copied from an old master, which is said to be a news that was circulated in the early years of Antique Street. There was a high official in the Ming dynasty who hid a group of treasures. Later, when the family fell into the ground, the treasures were lost, and the ropes seemed to be scattered among some old objects on this street. People like Zhang Tianhao couldn't get anything out, so I might really believe in this. Lin Zi'ang took the book and glanced at it for a few glances. It was indeed written with fragmentary records, such as Ming dynasty jade pendants and hidden treasures and pictures, which looked quite like that. He felt awkward in his heart, and he felt that things were getting more and more complicated, but the most important thing to be on tomorrow's private shooting, so he could only put the treasures in a little while. Okay, don't worry about these for now. What do you think about tomorrow's affairs? I'll make an appointment with Su Xiaoman. Use high-quality imitation green copper cauldron fish to see what Zhang Tianhao wants to fuck. Do you have any ideas? Lin Zi'ang gave the book to the fat man and asked seriously. Wang Xiaopeng touched his chin and smiled. I have an idea, but I'm afraid you won't dare to fuck you. I know a few guys who eat in the Antique Street. They usually help others watch the scene. They can take them over tomorrow and dress them up as your followers to help you with the scene. If Zhang Tianhao really dares to do it, we won't eat too many people. Lin Zi'ang was a little bit too much, and he thought this idea was good, but he actually had more than a few more people to get a safe point. He chatted with the fat man again for details and made an appointment to meet near the private filming venue tomorrow evening. After the fat man left, the room calmed down again. Lin Zi'ang lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling, staring at the scene of tomorrow, and he couldn't sleep no matter how hard he was. The next evening, the private filming was located in an old warehouse in the back alley of Antique Street. It looked broken on the surface, but there was no place inside. When Lin Zi'ang followed Su Xiaoman in, he found that it was arranged like a small auction venue, with dozens of chairs surrounding it, and in the middle was a display stand built at a time, and there were several black dresses standing next to it, with unkind eyes sweeping towards the people coming in. Su Xiaoman said to Lin Zi'ang in a low voice, "These people are mostly Zhang Tianhao's subordinates. Let's be careful. I'll bring the things and they'll be in the bag. You'll see my eyes when you look at me." She patted the black leather bag in her hand, and the high imitation blue copper tripod was installed inside. It was almost exactly the same as it was, and Lin Zi'ang could hardly see it. The two of them sat down in an inconspicuous corner. Lin Zi'ang lowered his head and pretended to play with his mobile phone, but actually observed the surroundings with the light at the corner of his eyes. After a while, Wang Xiaopeng walked in with three young men, shook him with a wink, and then sat in the back row as if nothing had happened. The three young men looked pretty weak and were wearing ordinary sportswear, but there was a ruthless look in their eyes, and Lin Zi'ang took a little bit of it in his heart. The auction began soon. A middle-aged man in a flower shirt walked onto the stage, holding a little McKim style, and said with a smile, "Friends, today is a private transaction meeting on our Antique Street. Everyone understands the rules. Those who are at the highest price will get it. No other words, let's start directly. The next few items are small items, such as porcelain bowls and jade pendants. The price is not high, and the atmosphere is still calm." Lin Zi'ang noticed that Zhang Tianhao was sitting in the front row, wearing a dark crochet, smiling on his face, but his eyes were as cold as a knife. He glanced at him from time to time, making people feel uncomfortable. When they arrived at their green copper tripod on the stage, Su Xiaoman stood up, walked to the display stand with his bag, and pulled out the high imitation tripod, and said calmly, "This green copper tool is made of imitation during the Shang and Zhou dynasties. It has a very detailed appearance, with a base price of 500,000. Interested friends can bid." There are a lot of low words on the spot, and many people start talking about private words, which is obviously interested in this. Zhang Tianhao raised his hand and reported the price directly, 60 million. Su Xiaoman glanced at him, and the corner of his mouth slightly raised, as if he had expected him to take action. Then several people followed up with the price, and the price was quickly raised to 1 million. Lin Zi'ang sat down, his heart beating fast. Although he knew that this was a fake, he couldn't help but feel nervous when he looked at Zhang Tianhao's destined to win. When the price reached 1.5 million, only Zhang Tianhao competed with another middle-aged man wearing a glass. The middle-aged man looked like an expert and was cautious every time he increased the price, but Zhang Tianhao was obviously impatient and stood up directly, saying coldly, "I want it, don't fight anyone else." As soon as this happened, the scene was quiet for a few seconds. The middle-aged man wearing a glass hesitated for a moment, and then sat back. Su Xiaoman smiled and knocked on the table. "Okay, 2 million, the deal is completed. Mr. Zhang, please go to the backstage to hand over later." Zhang Tianhao pointed his head, showed a smug smile on his face, and stood up and walked towards the backstage. Lin Zi'ang and Su Xiaoman looked at each other and both knew that the real code had just begun. They followed to the backstage, and several Zhang Tianhao's subordinates were already waiting there, and the atmosphere suddenly became tight. "Where's something, take it out." Zhang Tianhao leaned against the wall, clicked a smoke, and looked at Lin Zi'ang with a cold look. Su Xiaoman calmly took out the high imitation tripod from the bag and passed over. "Mr. Zhang, the goods are here, and the 2 million transfers can be received in time." Zhang Tianhao took the blue copper tripod, squinted his eyes and looked at it for a few seconds. His face suddenly changed and he suddenly threw it to the ground, making a crisp sound. He looked at Lin Zi'ang with a sneer, his lingering anger. "Boy, how dare you fool me with the pretense? Believe it or not, I won't let you get out of this warehouse tonight." Lin Zi'ang was nervous, but he still had a strong face. He said, "Mr. Zhang, you took the things yourself. You should have seen whether they are fake or not. Now I blame me. What's the reason?" Su Xiaoman also smiled coldly and added, "Aside, this is a private filming, and the authenticity of the goods is full of vision. How can you still need us to teach an expert like Mr. Zhang?" Zhang Tianhao's face was blue, and he obviously didn't expect it to be beaten. He gritted his teeth, winked at his subordinates, and several powerful horses surrounded him, making a fuss. Lin Zi'ang's heart beat faster, but at this time Wang Xiaopang walked in with the 3 young men. Standing behind him, the two sides suddenly formed a confrontation. "Zhang Tianhao, do you really want to take action here?" Su Xiaoman said with a warning, and at the same time took out his cell phone from his bag, as if he was ready to call the police at any time. Zhang Tianhao stared at them for a few seconds, finally snorted coldly, and let his subordinates retreat. "Okay, you have a kind of people. But Lin Zi'ang, I'll tell you that there is no one to protect you." Then, he turned away with someone, and the atmosphere in the warehouse calmed down. Lin Zi'ang let out a breath and his legs were a little soft. Wang Xiaopang patted his shoulder and said with a smile, "I'll go, Zi'ang, you're so tough just now, you didn't miss you." Su Xiaoman put away his cell phone, and his eyes were filled with solemnity. This matter is not over, and Zhang Tianhao will not be good at silence. But we won this game today, at least let him know that we are not easy to bully. When several people left the warehouse, it was completely dark, and there were only a few dim road lights in the alleys of the antique street. Lin Zi'ang's heart was still full of ups and downs, and he always thought that Zhang Tianhao wouldn't let it go. Sure enough, after a few days, Su Xiaoman received the news that Zhang Tianhao began to spread rumors everywhere, saying that Lin Zi'ang had real goods in his hand, and he was also talking about some hidden treasure pictures, and tried to attract more people to complain. The news made Lin Zi'ang even more uneasy, but he did not spare time. He took advantage of this time with Su Xiaoman to continue to leak on the antique street and listen to the hidden treasures. They found the old man and told him everything about the latest incident. After hearing it, Chen was silent for a while before he slowly spoke. The thing about hiding the treasures is not a hole. I also heard this story when I was young, saying it was the thread of the hidden collections of the Ming dynasty, which were indeed hidden in some old objects on the antique street. If you really want to check it, you can start with the few old men at the end of the street. Those people might have unexpected harvests. Lin Zi'ang and Su Xiaoman looked at each other, decided to listen to the old man and go to the end of the street to catch the weather. They kept moving around for several days, and finally found a broken copper card with some blurry patterns on it, which looked like part of the map. After careful study by Su Xiaoman, he said with surprise, "This may be a phantom picture of the Tibetan painting. Although it is incomplete, it points in a general direction and should be in an old mountain on the outskirts of the city." The two of them did not dare to make a sound, so they quietly bought the copper card and began to investigate. They contacted several archaeological friends, and after confirming the location, they decided to go and explore the road by themselves. At the same time, Zhang Tianhao's actions became increasingly important, and he even sent someone to follow them to try to find Baozong first. A few days later, Lin Zi'ang, Su Xiaoman and Wang Xiaopeng came to the mountain on the outskirts of the city and found a secret cave based on the traces on the copper card. The hole was pitch black, and the air was filled with a damp earthy smell. They walked carefully with their hands on their phones. Not long after walking, Su Xiaoman suddenly stopped, pointed to a groove on the cave wall and said, "This is a connection, like the design of an ancient tomb passage. We have to be careful." Lin Zi'ang was a little bit nervous, and his heart was both tight and excited. He followed Su Xiaoman's guidance and tried to touch the groove. Sure enough, he heard a low sound of turbulence, and the whole wall slowly moved, revealing a deeper passage. Several people continued to move forward and finally found a stone chamber in the passage, with several old boxes, some scattered jade and gold. Su Xiaoman checked it and said excitedly, "This is the Ming dynasty treasure in the history. Although it is not all, these things are worth a lot of money, especially the jade ruby in the middle. It is estimated that it can be worth tens of billions." Lin Zi'ang looked at the treasure in front of him, his brain buzzing, and he could hardly believe his own luck. But at this moment, a sound of footsteps suddenly came from the entrance of the cave. Zhang Tianhao walked in with a few subordinates, and a sneer on his face. "Lin Zi'ang, I didn't expect you to find this place, but these treasures are not something you can take." The two sides confronted each other again, and the atmosphere was in a strife. Lin Zi'ang gritted his teeth and knew that he could not avoid this battle. He said to Su Xiaoman in a low voice, "Hold them down, I'll try to close the machine to see if I can close the passage." Su Xiaoman pointed at the head and began to deal with Zhang Tianhao, while Lin Zi'ang quietly retreated to a corner of the stone chamber and carefully observed the surroundings. With a direct view of the antique, he soon discovered another hidden shutter on the stone wall. After pressing it, the passage began to close smoothly, and Zhang Tianhao and others were separated outside. Although it was temporarily dismissed, Lin Zi'ang knew that Zhang Tianhao would not give up easily. They didn't dare to stay for too long, so they quickly took the photos of the treasure, took away several key items such as Yurui, and then left the cave from another small path. After returning to the city, Su Xiaoman contacted relevant departments, reported the treasures, and donated most of the cultural relics to the country, leaving only a small part for research and display. This incident was quickly passed on, and Lin Zi'ang's name became a legend in the antique industry, not only because of his lost talent, but also because he and Su Xiaoman cooperated with him to protect national cultural relics and won the respect of countless people. Zhang Tianhao was eventually arrested by the police for his illegal acts many times, and the dark force in the antique street was cleaned up. A few months later, Lin Zi'ang and Su Xiaoman jointly founded a regular antique decorative company, specializing in helping others not to be honest, and at the same time, they continued to look for the next leaking miracle on the antique street. That evening, Lin Zi'ang stood in front of the company window, watching the lights on the antique street lights everywhere, and a feeling that could not be said in his heart. He knew that there were many secrets on this street, and his story just began.